Hi, peace scholars, peace warriors, peace lovers. I'm Avis Kalfsbeck, taking a little break between bigger episodes to share some short classic literature pieces for peace. I make words and podcasts for peace, and you can find more of my work at aviskalfsbeck.com. That is Teo scratching. That's aviskalfsbeek.com. These next few episodes are read by Kitty Ocampost, a character I created not too long ago. She's warm, curious, and always a little offbeat, and she's getting ready to host a new podcast series launching this January called Control AI Disarm, all about the Great Disarmament and the future of Peace Commons. At the end of each reading, you'll also hear the next Peacelands, a roll call of global conflicts and arms exports that reminds us how much work we still have to do. The literature readings are just a few minutes long, and they're meant to offer one small pause, one soft moment for peace. I usually include a recorded outro at the end of each of my episodes, but today we'll simply let the next Peacelands roll gently into the music. So I'll let you know now. What you'll hear is The Red Kite, a beautiful track by the talented Peque Javier Rodriguez. Thanks for being here. Now over to Kitty. Well, hey there, friends and fellow book dusters. It's me, Kitty Ocampost, coming to you from a slightly crooked card table in the upstairs hallway of the Hotel Prairie Belle, where the Wi-Fi hums like a nervous squirrel and the radiator sings like a broke harmonica. Now, I know what you're thinking. Kitty, what in tarnation are you doing reading out loud from a bunch of dusty old books? And the answer is, I had a dream. Not one of those metaphor dreams where your teeth fall out and it means you've got unresolved taxes. No, sir. This one was one of those rare, bone-deep dreams where you wake up certain of two things. Number one, I'm about to report the story of my life. Number two, my reporter voice could use some work. So I called my neighbor, Darla Mae Trippett, retired mail carrier, part-time llama sitter, full-time critic of absolutely everything. I told her about the dream, and she says, well, Kitty, why don't you pull a book off your shelf and practice reading it out loud like you're auditioning for the voice of God on public radio? So here I am, and there you are. Now, today's reading is from one Ralph Waldo Emerson, a big-thinking fella from Massachusetts who wore nice coats and said things like, trust thyself. He was an essayist, a poet, a preacher, and one of the original do-your-own-thing types back in the 1800s. He believed we all carry a piece of the divine, and if you listen real careful to a river or a tree or your own plain heart, you might just hear something holy. We're reading a bit from his essay, Compensation, and I'll set a timer for 4 minutes. Not that time ever behaved itself in this hotel. Could be less, could be more, depending on what the radiator thinks. Timer set. This is Kitty Ocampost reporting for peace. Well, darling, when it comes to peace, I could read classic literature or I could read the back of a cereal box, because sometimes it's not what you read, it's the fact that we slow down for humanity, and no one, for goodness sake, is holding a gosh darn gun. This is an excerpt from Compensation by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ever since I was a boy, I have wished to write a discourse on compensation, for it had seemed to me, when very young, that on this subject life was ahead of theology, and the people knew more than the preachers taught. The documents, too, from which the doctrine is to be drawn, charmed my fancy by their endless variety, and lay always before me, even in sleep, for they are the tools in our hands, the bread in our basket, the transactions of the street, the farm and the dwelling house, the greetings, the relations, the debts and the credits, the influence of the character, the nature and endowment of all men. It seemed to me also that it might be shown men a ray of divinity, the present action of the soul of this world, cleaned from all vestige of tradition, and so the heart of man might be bathed in an inundation of eternal love, conversing with that which he knows was always and always must be, because it really is now. It appeared, moreover, that if this doctrine could be stated in terms with any resemblance to those bright intuitions in which this truth is sometimes revealed to us, it would be a star in many dark hours and crooked passages in our journey that would not suffer us to lose our way. I was lately confirmed in these desires by hearing a sermon at church. The preacher, a man esteemed for his orthodoxy, unfolded in the ordinary manner the doctrine of the Last Judgment. He assumed that judgment is not executed in this world, that the wicked are successful, that the good are miserable, and then urged from reason and from Scripture a compensation to be made to both parties in the next life. No offense appeared to be taken by the congregation at this doctrine. As far as I could observe, when the meeting broke up, they separated without remark on the sermon. Yet what was the import of this teaching? What did the preacher mean by saying that the good are miserable in the present life? Was it that houses and lands, offices, wine, horses, dress, luxury are had by unprincipled men, whilst the saints are poor and despised, and that a compensation is to be made to these last hereafter by giving them the like gratifications another day, bank stock and doubloons, venison and champagne? This must be the compensation intended, for what else? Is it that they are to have leave to pray and praise, to love and serve men? Why, that they can do now. The legitimate inference the disciple would draw was, we are to have such a good time as the sinners have now, or, to push it to its extreme import, you sin now, we shall sin by and by. We would sin now if we could. Not being successful, we expect our revenge tomorrow. The fallacy lay in the immense concession that the bad are successful, that justice is not done now. The blindness of the preacher consisted in deferring to the base estimate of the market of what constitutes a manly success, instead of confronting and convicting the world from the truth, announcing the presence of the soul, the omnipotence of the will, and so establishing the standard of good and ill, of success and falsehood, and summoning the dead to its present tribunal. I find a similar base tone in the popular religious works of the day, in the same doctrines assumed by the literary men when occasionally they treat the related topics. I think that our popular theology has gained in decorum, and not in principle, over the superstitions it has displaced. But men are better than this theology. Their daily life gives it the lie. Every ingenious and aspiring soul leaves the doctrine behind him in his own experience, and all men feel sometimes the falsehood which they cannot demonstrate, for men are wiser than they know. That which they hear in schools and pulpits without afterthought, if said in conversation, would probably be questioned in silence. If a man dogmatized in a mixed company on providence and the divine laws, he is answered by a silence which conveys well enough to an observer the dissatisfaction of the hearer, but his incapacity to make his own statement. I shall attempt in this and the following chapter to record some facts that indicate the path of the law of compensation. Happy beyond my expectation if I shall truly draw the smallest arc of this circle. Thank you for letting me practice Kitty's reporting voice for the big story ahead. Control AI DISARM. Now stay with me a few minutes longer if you're able for the next Peacelands. Podcasts usually have ads you fast forward through. This one doesn't. Instead, I invite you to pause here just for a few minutes and listen with an open heart, not to memorize the numbers, not to analyze the politics. As I read each conflict, I'll say aloud, "Peace is here." You're welcome to say it with me or just think it quietly. If you'd like to read, sing, or paint your own version of the next Peacelands, or tell me how to say peace is here in your language. I'd love to hear it. This is the next Peacelands. Not for doom and gloom, not for pity or sadness, we speak and we listen to these geographic locations of wars and the numbers of deaths of human souls to help put the great disarmament, the period in which we live now, and peace at the forefront of our daily consciousness and actions. Following are the major and minor armed conflicts, over 1,000 deaths in 1 year as of November 2025. Myanmar conflict since 1948, 199,000 total fatalities, 13,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Arab-Israeli conflict since 1948, 263,000 total fatalities, 25,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Congolese conflicts since 1996, 211,000 cumulative fatalities, 10,000 deaths year to date 2025. Peace is here. Islamist insurgencies in Maghreb Sahel since 2002, 464,000 total fatalities, 18,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Mexican drug war since 2006, 417,000 total fatalities, 11,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Sudanese conflicts since 2008, 1,400,000 cumulative fatalities, 20,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Russo-Ukrainian war since 2014, 400,000 cumulative fatalities, 66,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Ethiopian civil conflict since 2018, 610,000 cumulative fatalities, 5,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Colombian-Venezuelan conflicts since 1964, 458,000 cumulative fatalities, 2,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Afghan conflict since 1978, 2,800,000 cumulative fatalities, 3,000 deaths 2025 year to date. Peace is here. Somali civil war, current phase, since 1991, 1 million cumulative fatalities, 10,000 deaths 2025 year to date. Peace is here. Civil conflicts in Nigeria since 1998, 104,000 cumulative fatalities, 3,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. The Yemeni civil war crisis since 2011, 382,000 cumulative fatalities, 3,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Syrian conflict spillovers since 2011, 656,000 cumulative fatalities, 9,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Cameroonian conflicts since 2012, 9,000 cumulative fatalities, 900 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Ecuadorian drug war since 2018, 9,000 cumulative fatalities, 4,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Haitian crisis since 2018, 20,000 cumulative fatalities, 3,000 deaths year to date. Peace is here. Does that mean the countries that weren't mentioned are more peaceful? Some are not. Here are the world's largest weapons exporters, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute's Arms Transfers Database. These numbers use TIV, a value that reflects how much destructive military weaponry a country sends abroad, regardless of the payment or cost. The United States exports $729 billion in weapons volume, 43% of total global exports. Peace is here. France exports $136 billion in weapons volume, 10% of global exports. Peace is here. Russia exports $155 billion in weapons volume, 8% of global exports. Peace is here. China exports $61 billion in weapons volume, 6% of global exports. Peace is here. Germany exports $90 billion in weapons volume, 6% of global exports. Peace is here. Italy exports $37 billion in weapons volume, 5% of global exports. Peace is here. The United Kingdom exports $144 billion in weapons volume, 4% of global exports. Peace is here.